Hi, it's Melissa Campanelli, co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle, and I'm here at IRCE at RetailX with Judy Ransford, the CMO of Hickory Farms. Thanks so much for being with us today, Judy.
Thanks, Melissa. It's great to talk with you today.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit about Hickory Farms in general. I think a lot of people know the brand, but they're not exactly sure how the company is run and what you guys do. So tell me a little bit about it as well as your role there as CMO.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we like to use sort of as a tagline lately at Hickory Farms is we call ourselves a 68-year-old startup. And the reason for that is Hickory Farms is really an American heritage brand. We've been around since 1951, but we're in a phase right now where the current team leading Hickory Farms and everyone working there is working to truly transform the brand. This all started about 3 years ago. The company changed hands with respect to ownership, and I joined in June of 2016, was hired by the CEO that was brought in by the new leaders, and the team that purchased the company wanted to really transform the brand for a new audience of food gifters. Hickory Farms is a retailer in the food gifting space, but we operate across multiple channels. We have a e-commerce channel, we have a retail brick and mortar channel, which consists of kiosks that are seasonal. So we have about 500 kiosks that exist in malls across the US and in Canada. And we open them up for just about 2.5 months every year at the holiday season. But then Hickory Farms also has a very large business in wholesale channels, and we distribute through a lot of the major wholesale brands that you're aware of in mass, in grocery, and in department stores. And we're on this journey right now to reinvent the brand, really trying to drive growth both through digital, but also to extend our food gifting brand to more occasions. Many people think of Hickory Farms really around the Christmas holidays, and we're trying to extend that brand beyond winter holidays and become a part of our consumers' gifting habits year-round, whether it be Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, or birthdays at any time of the year. And then in order to do that, we're also introducing lots of new products. So it's been a very exciting 3 years with a lot of change, but it's been a very fun time for us at Hickory Farms.
Wow, that's so exciting. I love hearing about stories about retailers transforming themselves. I know that as your CMO, as the CMO of the company, you spoke today about how Hickory Farms leverages something called send time optimization and dynamic personalized content. I bet our listeners would love to hear a little bit more about that. How does Hickory Farms do that?
Absolutely. Well, I had the opportunity today to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is really email optimization and email marketing. So the examples that you gave are really all part of an email program that we've been working very hard on at Hickory Farms. Within our direct response channel and e-commerce, the email program is one of the core drivers of revenue. And when I first joined the company, it was one of the opportunities that I identified as low-hanging fruit in that it hadn't really been focused on by the prior leadership. And so we made a lot of changes. We added talent to the team. We added new technology and new tools. And by doing that, as an example, in the last 2 years, we've actually grown the revenue that we get from the email channel on the website by 125%. So it's been really a huge driver of our growth thanks to the team that we've put in place and their ability to leverage new tools. So some of the examples you gave around send time optimization and dynamic content are all examples of the specific things that we're doing within the email channel. So we want to make sure that the emails that we send to our consumers are super relevant, that to the extent that we can, we personalize the content to what we know they're interested in. So if we're sending emails to our corporate gifters, we'll send them content about how they can use gifting to enhance relationships with their clients or employees. If we're sending gifters to our consumer base, we talk quite a bit around the specific holidays of the year. And one of the things that I talked about in our presentation today is that different customers are really engaged with us in different ways throughout the year. So our traditional customer, I mentioned earlier, a lot of people think about Hickory Farms as a holiday brand. And while we're working to show customers that we're a great choice any time of the year, there's a lot of customers that aren't interested in receiving a ton of email from us throughout the year. So one of the things that we do is that during the non-holiday season, we'll watch the responsiveness of our email recipients, and if those customers are not opening or clicking through our email, we'll really dial down the frequency with which we're touching them. But then as we get closer to the winter holidays, we run what we call a reactivation campaign, and we use marketing automation to send emails to people who we wouldn't otherwise be emailing because they haven't opened or clicked maybe in 6 months. And we'll offer them something of value, such as a coupon to come back to our site. We'll tell them that we've missed them, and we'll look for them to either open or click through that email. And depending on the action that they take with that first email, we will then use sort of an automated decision tree logic to send them subsequent emails. To remind them that their offer is about to expire, to maybe try a different offer. And by doing that, what we're able to do is bring about 5% of our inactive email list back into the active status prior to that core holiday season, because they've let us know through their actions that they're really interested in hearing from us, and we get a great conversion rate then as we move into the winter holidays.
That's the epitome of personalization, it sounds like. Before we started the podcast, you mentioned that you're doing some programs in social that are interesting as well. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about those?
Absolutely. So social media is a channel that we think is really important in our strategy right now on a couple fronts. It's a key area where we're looking to introduce the brand to new audiences. So as we move from kind of a steady state mode that we've been in for the last decade, and we're really focused on investing in growth, we're using paid social advertising to reach out and target audiences that have interest in food gifting, that have interest in areas that are related to food gifting, and introduce the brand to them. So really high funnel marketing within social media. The other things that we're doing within social media, I mentioned the email program. We use social media as a way to create offers and value for customers to opt into our email program. And so we can use social as a vehicle to introduce the brand to new customers with a call to action. Maybe if they're new to the brand, they're not ready to buy right away, but we'll introduce them to the brand and see if they want to opt into email with an offer of value somewhere down the line. And then that brings us into, it brings them kind of into the marketing family, and we can continue to communicate with them over time. The other thing that we're doing in social is we do a lot of giveaways of product, and that's one of the things I talked about as well in the presentation today. So we do giveaways with incentives to do a couple of things. So in exchange for the opportunity to get free gifts from our brand, a customer can opt into email, or they can follow us on Instagram, they can tag a friend, and we've doubled our Instagram following in the last year, primarily through giveaways, but also through a lot of the work that we've done on the creative front. We've gone through a rebranding in the beginning of this year. We introduced a new logo, we introduced all new packaging, and we have a creative director who joined our team within the last 2 years who has done an amazing job in really leading a reinvention of the look and feel of the brand. So all of this is sort of coming together, and social is one of the channels where we really look to show that off, both through our organic content, our paid advertising, and then lastly through working with influencers. And our approach to influencers for the past couple of years has been to partner with different agencies that can connect us with relevant influencers. And so typically we will pair up with anywhere from 10 to 20 influencers around key holiday seasons who will utilize product, demonstrate how they would gift Hickory Farms, demonstrate beautiful spreads in their own sort of lifestyle marketing, and that has been another great way to introduce the brand to new audiences.
Exciting. Wow, that's awesome. So let's switch gears a little, and let's talk a little bit about your career journey. What were some of your other roles, and how did you end up at Hickory Farms?
Sure. So prior to Hickory Farms, I actually started my own brand in the e-commerce apparel space, and that was something that had been really kind of brewing for me for many years. I've always been interested in fashion design and apparel, and I took about 2 years to develop my brand called 5 Junes. And at the time that I conceived of the brand, I had a daughter who was about 5th or 6th grade during that time period, and I really wanted to address the market of providing high quality fashionable clothing for tween girls. And so my apparel brand addressed the market of girls aged 9 to 13. And it was amazing experience, frankly, for what I'm doing now as the CMO at Hickory Farms, because I really managed that brand from start to finish, from doing everything from the clothing design to building the website, running the email marketing, and even managing the outsourced manufacturing of the product. So it was a fantastic experience, and coming into Hickory Farms, like I said, as a sort of 68-year-old startup, it's really served me well to have that background and be able to think like a business owner. In my role as CMO at Hickory Farms, not only am I the chief marketing officer, but I own the P&L, and so are sort of in a general manager role for the direct response business. And so that experience running my own e-commerce brand helped me with that. Prior to starting up my own brand, I spent 7 years at Redbox. And Redbox was an amazing experience. I happened to be there during the time period where, across a period of about 4 or 5 years, we went from $370 million in revenue to $2 billion. So it was really an absolutely amazing hands-on lesson in scaling a business in a way that very few businesses scale over that period of time. And so that was a fantastic experience at Redbox. I started out leading what we called our core growth strategy team. And that was a team that really used strategy and analytics as a means to making decisions about how to grow and scale that business. And then in the second half of my tenure there, I transitioned into my love, which is the marketing role, focusing on digital marketing, helping to build up their loyalty program, and also running marketing analytics and consumer insights.
It sounds like all roads led you to Hickory Farms. So let's talk a little bit about your team. I'm sure as a CMO, a big part of your job is motivating your team and creating a winning culture for them. Can you talk about some best practices about how you do that?
One of the things that I've been very lucky to do both at Redbox and at Hickory Farms is I've had the opportunity to grow teams from small to medium, or in some cases larger size teams, which has allowed me to really start from the beginning in terms of choosing and hiring the right people, and then setting that as the baseline to establish the culture. So at Hickory Farms, I have a department of about 21 people right now, and 18 of them have actually been hired since I've been with the brand. So we truly have built the team ourselves. And so from my perspective, hiring is really the foundation with respect to setting the culture and hiring people who are there for what the opportunity has to offer. So specifically at Hickory Farms, we're a smaller retailer. We are very scrappy, and although it's a large brand and we operate in a lot of channels, our teams are relatively small to what a lot of marketers might be accustomed to working at very large brands. Certainly for me, my experience in Redbox as an example, we had maybe about 7 people working on email marketing, and when I started at Hickory Farms, we had one person who spent 30% of her time focused on email marketing. We moved to a single person full-time, and now we're at a team of 3. But based on the scale of the brand, we have to wear a lot of hats and be very entrepreneurial. And we really screen for that in the hiring process and use it as a selling point And you know you've found your match when you can kind of take something that some people would see as a challenge in any given role or on any given team and flip it as an opportunity or a selling point. And when that becomes the attraction to them, you tend to find people who are a really great fit for the culture. The other thing about building up a team from scratch, and I recognize you don't always have the opportunity to do it, is that there's a certain camaraderie about people who kind of start together and build something together. And so both at Redbox, where we had the opportunity to bring about a lot of change in the business, and Hickory Farms, part of that experience of wearing a lot of hats and being really scrappy gives each person a lot of ownership. And though it can be stressful at times, I think that creates a very strong culture and ownership in the brand and camaraderie amongst the team.
That's really well put. Let's talk a little bit about your network or your professional network. Why do you think it's important to have a network of women that you can talk with, bounce ideas off, etc.?
Well, the one thing I didn't mention in my background in terms of how I came to Hickory Farms is very much related to this question, in that the CEO of Hickory Farms is actually a woman that I worked with previously at Redbox. And so that's really a core example for me. Our CEO, Diane Pierce, is one of the women that I count myself very lucky to have in my network. So what I have realized over the years of my own career is that probably the last 4 jobs, and prior to that when I did independent consulting, pretty much every opportunity that I've come across has been through somebody who is in my network. And so that network is absolutely key in terms of working with people who know you. And one of the things I truly appreciate in my current role, where we've got very ambitious goals and a lot of challenges, is that it has been so beneficial to me to come into a team where I already have an established relationship both with my boss and also with some of my peers previously through my network. And that has really paved the way to eliminate sort of one aspect of what could be stressful in taking on a new challenge. Likewise, in recruiting the team that I have, I mentioned that we've hired 18 new people in my department and as many and more throughout the whole company. We've really done a huge amount of that recruiting through each of our own networks as leaders on the team. And as an example, the creative director, who I mentioned, is a woman who spent some time at Pampered Chef and ultimately has added 4 different people to the Hickory Farms team who she's worked with in the past. And so I think that those networks, in terms of bringing together teams that are a cultural fit, so I think it ties back to our conversation about culture too, is that relying on your network for hiring and for sourcing talent, I think can be one of the best ways to bring people in that you already know are going to gel with the culture and really thrive in whatever culture you might be in at the time.
Just a couple more questions. So what is the biggest challenge, personal or business, that you've faced, and how has it shaped you today?
That's a really good question. I think I'll talk about one that I think is at the intersection of personal and business, which is, as a woman executive, certainly navigating I like to think about not work-life balance, but think about how I use my time and energy, and how I focus on that, or focus that time and energy either as a mom or as an executive or both. And one of the ways that I've navigated that in my own career is that I have really tried a lot of different things along the way. I have done everything from been a consultant in strategy consulting for big firms, to going and being an independent consultant, to being at very large corporations, to being at smaller ones like Hickory Farms, to starting up my own e-commerce brand. And along the way, one of the things that I have truly benefited from is working with coaches to help me kind of in making a lot of those decisions. And one of the things that I've really recognized at this point is, having tried all of those things, is that it's never a silver bullet. It feels sometimes, I remember in my consulting career, I felt like the kind of hours and the travel that I was doing as a strategy consultant for a big firm, that my life was going to be perfect if I could just go be an independent consultant and have time to myself. And then when I did that, I recognized, well, after a couple of years, I really missed the team, and I missed the intellectual environment of working with peers and others. And it's just one example of how sometimes changing the circumstances isn't necessarily the solution. And one of the things that I've benefited in a lot of the coaching that I have done along the way is that focusing on sort of my own approach and my mindset to whatever my circumstances might be is a better solve than necessarily immediately going to change the circumstances.
That's great advice right there. So lastly, Judy, what would you say are your current goals, either personally or professionally, going forward in 2019?
Thanks. Well, this one I'm going to focus on a professional goal. As I mentioned, we're reinventing the brand at Hickory Farms, and part of that is we're setting very aggressive growth goals for our e-commerce and direct response business. And so we had a great year last year in our e-commerce business and grew the business nearly 10%, and we're kind of doubling down on that goal this year. So I'm really focused on the opportunity. I think that there is a huge opportunity in front of us, and one of the things that is super exciting for me is the journey that we've been on, and having built up the team that we talked about earlier. I think that we have got sort of all of the necessary elements in place to really now push down the gas pedal and take the business to the next level. So from a professional standpoint, really my near-term goal and my goal for this year is very much focused around achieving some of that opportunity and that growth with the team that we've built at Hickory Farms.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Judy, for sharing all of this great information with us. We really appreciate it here at Women in Retail Talks, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up again at some point. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Melissa. It's been great.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at wirlc.com/podcasts for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.